Hola. Hey y'all, wanted to come on today with a perspective for you and my YouTube family. Hope all is well with you today. Starting to have more activity on here. I'm feeling good about that. But I want to speak today to Ouroboros. This is the snake eating its own tail. I was driving today, dropping my daughter off at school, and I just began thinking about it. It's been on my mind for the last week or so, so I speak to it today. You know, this concept of Ouroboros is supposedly have been adopted by the Gnostics, and it's supposedly, in all that you look online and find, and all that you see in books, is supposed to be some sort of a symbol of fertility, of death and renewal. The whole concept of the cycle of life repeating itself. And it's looked upon as a positive thing, but I've been struggling with that. Like, ever since I first saw it years ago, something in my spirit was kind of captivated with it in the sense of its meaning. Because when you look at it, how do you see something positive in that? Like, my spirit, when I look at it, it shows a snake harming itself. And it can get nowhere from what it's doing. Its ultimate end result will be its own demise. It's harming itself. It's eating its tail. And it's not as if the tail is going to regenerate and it grow again, and it can continuously feed off of itself. It will get nowhere unless it releases itself from eating on itself and goes and finds something to feast on outside of itself. So just recently I started thinking about it. I said, what makes a snake? I didn't even go look for it. It came to me. The sun is shining on me. It came to me while I was just scrolling the internet. The concept of why, the meaning behind why a snake eats its tail. And come to find out, the only time a snake eats its tail is when it's in a highly stressed environment. It either needs to be in captivity, out of its normal, free-flowing environment, or it needs to be in a environment where the temperatures are extreme. Either it's too hot or it's too cold, or it needs to be in a place of distress. Those are the only times that a snake will eat its own tail. And this concept of a snake eating its own tail is actually very common based upon those set of criteria. So when you look at that picture of an Ouroboros, you're looking at a snake in a bad situation. This is not a snake in wholeness, a snake vibing at its highest potential. This is a snake out of its element, a snake in captivity, a snake in distress. And because of it, its response is to attack itself. It's kind of like when you use this in a physical life perspective, from a human perspective, let's say that. Because see, all of these things were put in front of us to symbolize our own human experience. So if they're saying that the Ouroboros is a symbol of infinity, well, what is infinity? It's the constant and perpetual state of repeatedness. Yeah. It's exponential. It's an exponent. If infinity is an exponent of whatever it is that it's upon. whether it be life and death, whether it be happiness and goodness. Infinity is just an exponent of whatever that is. So when we look again at this Ouroboros symbol, and they're saying that this symbol symbolizes infinity, it symbolizes transformation from life to death. It's basically saying that whatever this symbol is symbolic of, it is in a harmful state. It is in a distressed state. It is not in its kingly state. It has fallen from that into some sort of captivity, into some sort of discomfort. It is out of its element. And it is bound to repeat whatever situation that it's in. Think of, it's just like, a group of people from a particular culture selling drugs to one another. They're all in poverty. They all struggle with the same struggles, most, commonly. They all have the same struggles. And then they begin to find this outlet where they can capitalize financially off selling drugs, but they sell drugs to one another and to one another's families. That's Ouroboros. Where you're in this perpetual cycle of failure. Yes, you have some wins. Yes, you're eating. Yeah, you got a couple of dollars. But as a whole, you are harming yourself. And you get nowhere. You'll actually be worse off in the end than you were in the beginning. That's Ouroboros. What is the meaning of Ouroboros? Ouroboros is a Greek term. Ouro. O-U-R-O. Well, no, to me, that's aura. That's just another way of spelling aura. Aura is all of the different layers that protect the soul, that make up the physical body, the spiritual body, rather. The aura. Your aura is what attracts things to you in life. Your aura is what repels things from you. In Egypt, they used to say to be able to stand in all aspects of oneself at the same time made you extremely powerful. I think what they were speaking to is to be able to stand in all the aspects of one's aura at the same time and have them work in conjunction with each other and independently. That's the great work, one of them. That's auric. That's your auric field. What is Boros? B-O-R-O-S. Some say it's a beetle. You can look it up. It'll say beetle. The Greek term for it is to eat, to kill, to eat. So this Ouroboros is something that eats or destroys one's aura. And we got this thing labeled on all kind of stuff. They say that the Gnostics adopted it. I don't know if that's true. So you gotta second guess everything. Nothing is pure any longer. Everything has been rebranded and redone. This was on my spirit. Ouroboros. Snake. The snake eating its tail, or the dragon eating its own tail. It's not natural. There's no good that comes from a dragon or a snake eating its own tail. So what we consider as good, referencing this symbol, is actually the opposite. Just wanted to come on today with that for y'all. It was on my spirit. It's been on my spirit, and then I was actually listening to Tupac on my way home, and Dear Mama was playing, and I thought of it. I said, you know what? I could equate that to just people in the inner city, people in general, selling drugs to one another. That's Ouroboros. Self-sabotaging behavior. And then, see, this Ouroboros symbol speaks to the fact that many in this life choose the path of self-sabotaging behavior, and they never leave the cycle of life. So they never ascend. See, this was the whole theory of Jesus. When Jesus came, Jesus was speaking to people because the Creator and all of those in the higher realms of consciousness that are not in physical bodies saw what was happening amongst the children. Nobody was ascending. We were all repeating kindergarten again and again and again and again. We were stuck in kindergarten, like many of us are now still. Never even know we had fallen so low, and those that could help us were not here any longer to help us. So the children were led astray, and they forgot. They had amnesia like they have now. They forgot the motive, the mission. They forgot why they came. And they forgot their way back. So Jesus comes and he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Or some say the light, whatever you want to call it. I'll take it either way. And you can't get to the Father but through me. He says, there are many rooms in my Father's house, or many mansions. There are many paths. One is no better than the other, but you need to choose one. Without condemnation, without fear. Because the goal in this life is to overcome the positives and the negatives. That's it, and that's all. Because they bound to come. If you think you're going to live this life without experiencing some positives and negatives, you don't understand what you're dealing with. The goal is to fine tune. It's like an algebraic equation. This is nothing but math. It's the balancing. This is a huge equation. On both sides, it's balanced. But we're out here trying to figure it out. We're working each problem as we go. This is nothing but a huge equation, y'all, that we are balancing out as we go and walk the path of life. We're working each aspect of the equation as we go. That's it, and that's all. And if you're familiar with mathematics, you'll understand what I'm talking about. You know how they say when you're doing math, they say show your work. You're showing your work by your activities. See, all of this stuff is recorded. All of this stuff is recorded, and it's beautiful. I love math. It's beautiful when you look at it. You can solve any problem in this life through mathematics. The balancing, the equations. So this Ouroboros, getting back to that, is nothing but a symbol of what's going on right now on this planet. See, all this stuff is like spell work. These are spells. They're symbols. They're spells, symbols, whatever you want to call them. Sigils, sigilistic symbols, whatever you want to call them. They hold a lot of power. And they're old. See, all these things, and I don't want to get into this, but I'll touch upon it a little bit. A lot of these spiritual entities were created in the mind. They're created in the head. You ever play Dungeons and Dragons, D&G? You ever They got all kind of games that you can get involved, groups, gaming groups, and all kind of stuff you can get involved in that basically create entities. And they give them powers, they give them areas that they live in. They create how the areas look. They decide what the entities eat, when they need to be paid attention to. They feed life into them. When you look at Egypt and you see all of those idols, figurines and all that kind of stuff, that's what that is. A lot of what we see going on today springs forth from that. See, back then, it was all villages and tribal communities. It was not no worldwide thing like it is now. In the beginning, it was tribal, it was small communities. And each small community had either what you would call a shaman. In Jamaica, not Jamaica, the islands, they call them a scientist, a doctor, whatever you want to call them. But they were your spiritual person because everything emanated from spirit. It was not anything that happened in your life. These people knew the connection to nature and spirit. So they knew, okay, there's a spiritual reason behind this, and I need to be able to tap into that which is of nature and its spirit to provide the antidote for it. I need to be able to look into the sky and see the different seasons because they determine the different spirits of those seasons. I just told you, you create in the mind entities within certain areas that have powers at certain times, so on and so forth. You could base them on planetary correspondences. You can base them on astrological correspondences, which basically are planetary correspondences. You could base them off of geographical settings. You could base them off of plant essences. They all correlate. You can't just base it off one thing. They all have tentacles in many different things of this garden. What has happened is we've forgotten the connection between all of this. We're singular in perspective, so we're limited. The Ouroboros is an interesting concept. They say it's an infinity symbol. I don't know about that. Well, it is. It's an infinity symbol saying that if you do not rise above what you have been bound to and what you have fallen to, let's just say that, if you don't rise out of that, you will have a perpetual cycle that will continuously repeat itself. You'll never free yourself of it. And that's what we're in. I'm telling you. We in that. That Ouroboros symbol is what has bound us. The snake eating its own tail. That snake is frantic. It's out of its element. It's afraid. It's uncomfortable. And it don't know what to do. So what does it do? It attacks its own self. Ha! Cold ass game, y'all. Anyway, just over here thinking again. Over here thinking. Ouroboros. Hope all is well with you. Don't know if I want to anything else I want to elaborate on. I still want to get on the Medusa concept. It's just not flowing to me right now. It'll come. Medusa. And it's interesting. Peace and love.